Estonko Hesche, La Dodoga Muskoke Hogologame Nathmahuila. Greetings and welcome to the 14th Annual Bay Area American Indian Two-Spirit Powwow. Welcome to our free virtual programming. I am so excited. For those that I do not know, my name is Roger Kuhn. Some folks call me Dr. Roger Kuhn, but y'all just call me Raj. I am a Porch Creek Muskoke. I come from the Wind Clan, and I have been a board member of Bates for the past 13 years. I've been part of the powwow committee for the past 13 years. Been doing these panels since COVID. Can y'all believe COVID was like 4 years ago? I remember in 2020, I was the chair of the powwow that year, and there were some whispers going on, like something was going on in the world. We weren't quite sure what that was, and then a few weeks later, everything shut down. So we weren't even really sure what was going to happen with the powwow. So the next year, when we weren't able to meet up in person, one of the offerings that we started to do was these virtual panels like you are all witnessing tonight. So I just want to take a moment and thank all of you that are watching this live and all that will be watching this recording at a later date. Thank you so much for being here in Muskoke. We say Mado, so thank you, thank you, thank you. It is my honor to welcome you all to Let Me Entertain You. This was an idea that I had really from the most recent Two-Spirit gathering that happened in Oklahoma this year in November. And I had the pleasure of meeting every single one of our panelists in person at that gathering. And I just thought these people were so lovely and so cool. And then I found out that they're badass entertainers on top of it all. And I thought we really should do an entertainers panel that really broadens the perspective of how we think about Two-Spirit entertainers. Two-Spirit entertainers are rock and rollers. We are dancers. We are drag artists. We are comedians. We are circus performers. We are designers. We are filmmakers. We are writers, etc., etc., etc. So tonight we have three presently, and hopefully another panelist will join us in just a moment. But I would like to just start by welcoming our panelists tonight. I'm going to start off with Janelle Niles. Janelle, welcome. Thank you so much for being here so much. Good to see you,
Great,
friend.
great. Thank you so much, Roger. Sorry for interrupting you there. I am currently at a comedy show, so if you hear any background, that's just a comedian on stage. So let me introduce myself. Gwegwe, Ninda Luisi, Janelle Niles, Wadabexi, Sabaganagadi, Nova Scotia, Canada. My name is Janelle Niles. I am a First Nations Mi'kmaq and Black woman from Sabaganagadi, Nova Scotia, and I am a stand-up comedian and recently crowned Mr. International Two-Spirit from the All Nation Society Two-Spirited Gathering in Oklahoma in November, where I got to meet Roger and unfortunately take his title. No, I love you,
It
Roger.
was rigged, folks. It was all rigged.
We need a recount. We need a recount. But thank you so much for having me. Well,
Oh,
thank you.
it is a joy. Janelle and I actually got to hang out after one night afterwards. And Janelle actually, we went to a drag show after the gathering, and Janelle actually did a bit of stand up at that. I don't even know where we were, somewhere in Oklahoma City, some random place that they gave you the mic and you did your thing and you nailed it. So it is so good to have you here. Welcome, welcome,
Thank
welcome.
you.
And I am going to welcome in Ace Capades Legacy. How are you, Gorge? Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, hello. I am doing great. I am currently in Arizona in a little town. Honestly, don't know where I'm at. I just know I'm in Arizona. I'm on my way to you in Cali.
Hey.
I am Ace Capares Legacy, aka ACL. I come from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I am from the Pima, Hetchkul, Mixteca, Natawatomi, Totamaru, uh, Amazon side. That's all me. All me. Got a lot of things in my pocket. I'm so happy to be here and I'm so glad that we're doing this. I'm so excited.
Well, I'm so
hmm
thrilled that you were here. You and I had a really great moment to be able to
hmm
connect during we did some fire keeping one morning for the
hmm
Sweat Lodge, and it was my first time actually ever keeping fire. And I just want to thank you for like showing me the way, and
Oh,
you just held it down for everybody there. So I learned so much from you that morning. And when I was putting together this panel, you were one of the first people I thought of that I wanted to reach out to. So thank you so much
Oh,
for being here. Y'all take care on your drive here. And I look
we
forward to
will.
seeing you in person in just a few days.
Yes,
Thank you
very
so much.
soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring in Zebediah right now. Zebediah, thank you so much for being here. It is such a joy to get to chat with you a little bit more. I know you and I had a moment to chat at the gathering as well, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I thanks again for the invite. So glad to be here. I'm Zebediah No Fire. I'm a Cherokee comedian. I live in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Uh, Kind of a man of many, a master of none, I think is the phrase. I'm all over the place. I try to do a lot of things. I think I'm decent at a lot of things, so that's okay. And comedy happens to be one of the main ones. And so I'm about 4 years into my little comedy journey. So a baby for sure, but the opportunities I've had in the past couple of years, I'll get choked up thinking about it. It's been a great ride. I love it, and I'm happy to look forward to 2025, what it brings. So
That's awesome. Well, we are so glad that you are here. Now, I remember when I was, it was like I think it was the powwow night that y'all came to the gathering. And I kind of, turned over my shoulder and I was like, wow, that person looks so familiar. And then I was like, oh, we're Instagram friends. But like when you're like friends online with people, but then you're like, do you recognize me? Because I recognize you.
yeah,
I don't want to be like the one to be like, hey, we're Instagram
yeah.
but that is totally me, y'all. I will come up to you if we're Instagram friends or Facebook friends and we're not like, I don't know you in real person. I will come up to you to be like, hey, I think we're friends
Uh,
on social media. So thank you
Thank
for
God.
being so warm and receptive when I came, some random came over to you to say,
No, absolutely. I appreciated it because same, I can't stand when like I understand that awkward interaction 100%. I see people all the time. I'm like, well, are they gonna know me? Are they gonna think, yeah, I'm the weird psychos, like, hey, whatever. And so but at the same time, what I hate more than that awkwardness is somebody that I know, you know me, and you know that I know you. We know each other, but then I'm like,
right.
oh, hey, I'm like halfway to a wave, and they turn the other way, even though I know they saw me. Oh. So I was so happy because I saw you from across the room and I was like, oh, I know him. I'm going to say hi at some point. So
Oh,
I was glad. I'm always glad when anybody has the nerve to get over that weird social uh, Irish sleeve that people pull when they
right.
like kind of turn their nose up. So it was great. Yeah.
Well, you share that you're a comedian, though you're also a musician because you had a music video that came out a few months ago, which is, I guess, I mean, it's a comedy video. I don't know if it's a comedy music video, but you are also a musician because you were doing your thing in that video. So we're going to talk about that in just a little moment. Before we do, though, I want to welcome our final panelist of the evening, the beauty, the wonder, someone that took my breath away upon the first time that I saw her. Like she looked like my auntie. I was like, oh my God, who is that? So thank you so much for being here. Would you please introduce yourself to everyone?
Hello, Sahoshi Fort Leviathan, Shafat Abi. Um, my name's Leviathan Shafat Abi. I'm also Resurrection Chanel on stage. I reside here in Oklahoma City. So I do drag performance. I do cultural classes. Um, I grew up in Colgate, Oklahoma. I don't know if y'all know where that's at. My grandmother, she had taught me language, growing up. And then, of course, have to do everything. But, it just, I was very inspired by my grandmother. She did a lot for me. And, and I tried to do my best like she had all these years. So, but, that's the whole thing. I've always been a teacher. I always want to be able to teach and be able to, share, either that be in drag or share with my flute songs or my stories or my language, everything, even in my beadwork, I try to, be able to teach it. That's the biggest thing for me because, you can't take that away from me. That's something for two-spirited people, we can do anything and it's beautiful. And, once you figure out how to be that person and be free, in that way it's just great and I love it. And all the people on the panel, I'm just so excited to see y'all again.
Oh.
But that's my name, that's my story, Leviathan Shafat Dabi, and I don't know why my screen is doing this.
It's like some sort of magic going on,
Like
right?
moving around. I thought my screen, or I thought my phone was moving for a second.
Oh, well, it's all good. Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to reconnect with you. And will we see you this weekend? Will you be at the powwow this weekend?
It's still a question.
Okay,
I
well,
have like one more day to decide. So
I hope so.
but
If not, I will look forward to our paths crossing again.
yes,
One of the reasons why you're probably such a great teacher is because you're a fabulous entertainer. Your performance at the gathering really took my breath away. I mean, I was somewhat backstage, so I couldn't see everything, and I desperately wanted to run out and watch your performance because I could tell that something magical was happening. So just similar, like I was telling ACL that when I was thinking about putting this together, really all of y'all were like really at the top of my mind, and Levias, and I really just wanted to make sure that you were a part of this panel to so that from like one entertainer to another that I see you and I think that you're fabulous and phenomenal, and I'm just so honored that you are here tonight.
thank you, Roger. I really appreciate y'all.
Oh, of course, friend. You shared a little bit around the inspiration really from your grandmother. And I'm just curious for the rest of our panelists here, like, can y'all share maybe a brief story about how you started out as an entertainer and maybe how you got into your chosen field of entertaining, right? So if any of you want to, can anyone that wants to just go ahead and log in. I see ACL is already on
I'll
mute.
do it. I'm on it. Well, gosh, ever since I was a wee little thing, I was always wanting my mom or my dad or my brother to just watch me perform, do something, do a trick. I started off with a dance background, gymnastics, and martial arts. And I transitioned from drag. I did drag at a young age, like 15 or so. So I always had that drag element with me. I just incorporated in other things. But I've only been doing circus for about 10 years almost. And I've been doing Lollipop, the apparatus I've showed you before, which is like a pole with a circle on top. I've been doing that apparatus for about 6 years now, I would say. But I've always loved to perform and make people smile and forget about life for a while. And it's just always been a passion. I've always been dancing. If I'm not dancing, I'm singing. If I'm not singing, I'm making art. If I'm not making art, I'm doing circus. I'm doing something to make the world just a little bit brighter.
Well, it sounds like you spend a lot of time entertaining yourself as well, which I mean, I know I
Mhm.
do when I'm in my zone and I'm playing music and I got my guitar out and I'm just, having like a
Mhm.
jam session at home. It is as if, I always say I sell out every concert I hold in my living room because it's like a full-on rock show. And even if I'm just by myself,
Yeah.
and it's, we can entertain ourselves and that's part of it. So thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else want to jump in on like sharing a story about how you got started? Maybe Janelle, I see you moving.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you. I have a jury of my peers over here, so um, I'm at a comedy show. So I always wanted to be a stand-up comedian. Like I grew up in a tumultuous upbringing, and I really felt connected to like Richard Pryor and Paul Mooney and them guys talking about um, their upbringings. But I also was inspired by uh, George Carlin and Bill Hicks and how political and how they kind of like changed the world. And I kind of mixed those two together. Like I can talk about my upbringing and also kind of try to change the world and like talking about um, tough topics through humor. And if I was gonna trauma dump, at least I'm making funny. There we go. That's basically it. And I guess I waited a little too long because now I'm like almost 40 years old, and I'm only 6 years into stand-up comedy, and I'm still a baby, just like Zadiah said, like we're still new to comedy. I started at 31 years old and I got onto the stage and just did my indigenous jokes and try to be funny to a full white audience, and they had no idea what I was saying. But even though no one laughed, I was laughing. And people were like, you have to stop laughing at your own jokes. Comedians don't laugh at their own jokes. And I'm like, well, someone has to think they're funny.
That's right.
So I really just try to take my past and try to create a better future, if you will. I know that sounds cliche, but uh, it's healing. And comedy changed my life. If you see my old pictures, I had an amazing glow up. And I'm going to keep on doing it and hopefully inspire other Indigenous comedians to keep going, and other two-spirited kin youth to, if they want to try their hand at stand-up comedy and try to be funny with our tough topics. And I'm the person to come to. So thank you for that question. It's a good question.
Well, I'm sensing a two-spirit comedy tour between the Zebediah and Janelle. Maybe y'all can do a little thing, and maybe I can open for you as long as I can go on like at 6:30. Then
Yes, I hope so. I hope so. 100%.
That'd be awesome. Zebediah, you want to jump in here and share a brief story about how you got started?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm using my phone, so I have to do that like awkward thing where like I awkwardly like everyone sees me turn and like push the little button to mute and unmute myself. But how I got started, I don't know. I've have been a lifelong fan of comedy, but when like I was a kid, I think of my comedy journey, whatever, almost like kind of like spiritually. I see it's like my destiny. Like I was destined to be a comedian, and the only not like that's not a cocky thing at all, because like I'm socially anxious and I didn't really want to do it. I like wanted to be serious, and I wanted to play dramatic roles and give moving speeches that like made people cry. I wanted to be like the Sermon on the Mount, like very very serious and dramatic. And like my whole life, everyone like from like 4 years old said that you're funny, and not like in a like, oh, you're so cute, like a little kid way. Like I knew they were telling me like, oh my god, yeah, this kid's funny, and like my whole life. And so finally, when I reached my 20s, I just kind of like gave into it, and I was like, you know what, this is clearly something I've got a knack for it. People seem to think I'm good at it. I think if I really tried and put some effort into it and polished it, I think I could really do something with it. And just started going to dingy rugged clubs and trying things out and finding my voice. And thankfully, somehow from that, have had the many opportunities that I've had the past couple of years. I don't really know when it transitioned into what my life is now, but I'm very thankful that it did. And so that's kind of how I got into comedy, I guess. That was the question, right? Don't let me answer something crazy. That was your question.
No, that's all good. I mean, that is the question, and we're all thankful that you did get into it. And there are many like comedians who go on to do very dramatic turns.
For sure.
I know Jim Carrey's the first example that really comes to mind, and like what a phenomenal comedian he is, and like a really great dramatic actor as well. So if you feel like giving us a soliloquy later, this could be the place for a little dramatic interpretation, if that's your jam. I want to pass it on to Leviathan if there's anything that you want to share about really how you shared a little bit about being a drag artist. Like, how did you come into that world?
Well, for drag, I mean, we started coming out to, I've watched Drag Race since I was really little, secretly. But we just started coming out to Oklahoma City about 5 years ago. And I've always enjoyed drag until I got to see these queens actually get up there and then become friends with them. And I always wanted to do it, but working where I work, Chickasaw Nation, I didn't really get to do things like that. I kind of had to hide from it. But once I became free enough to do it and became strong enough to do it, I guess you would say, because it is hard to get up on stage. It's hard for all of us. We all know it's hard to get up there. It takes a lot of courage. And I really, have been kind of taught that my whole life, to be able to be on stage and teach, kind of helped me coming out and being a drag queen. I was trans, but, to be a drag queen is a whole nother ball game, and I just really enjoy it because it's hilarious. We get up there and do the most funniest things you can imagine. We get up there and do the most political things you can imagine.
Right.
and that's just how beautiful this art is of drag, and I love it. Sorry about this camera thing. But that's just how, I have so many drag friends that produce beautiful things. Take my mother, Sage Chanel. Take
Mhm.
Landa Lakes. Landa's my cousin. Sage is, I met her through drag. um and so it's been a great time. And I'm a baby drag queen, you can say that, because I barely get out. I don't want to be out here just doing anything. I want to produce the art that I like. And I know people love it. I've watched Zebediah a lot of times. He cracks me up. And I've been able to, watch all of y'all, and it's beautiful. All of our drag is so beautiful. But for me, getting started, I've only been doing it probably, about 2 years, for real, doing drag, because and it's not like I'm out here just trying to get booked everywhere. I have to be booked in certain places because it's just I don't know if it's our Indian ways or if it's something different. I don't know. But I sure do enjoy it. And my 2 year journey here has been great. But I've always been a teacher besides that. But I will say that did help me, being able to teach, and kind of give me that extra push of
Mm.
courage to get on stage and actually do it, and actually look good doing it. Hey.
Looking very good doing it. Well, I also, just a shout out to our Two-Spirit, Indigiqueer drag queens and drag kings that are out there paving the road for us. They are getting us in places. They are getting us visibility. So just shout out to all those, especially the legacy holders like Brush Arbor Girls and the Bay Area and Land O'Lakes, Kenya Pfister, those folks. Lots of shout out to them too. Though you make a really good point that you may be selective as to like where you perform, right? And that may be true for a lot of us, right? That like we may be great in our crafts, though do non-native places like have openings for us? Do they respect us? Do they understand where we're coming from that cultural perspective? So I really want to know from y'all, what are some of the tips that you might have for other Two-Spirit performers, whether they're the young ones or the yelders, what I call the yelders, the not quite the youth, not quite the elders, the yelders, or even those elders that decide that maybe they want to get into the entertainment world at a later age. What advice would you maybe give to folks who are just really beginning to start out in this crazy business that we call show? Go ahead, Janelle.
Oh, okay, sure. So we're both like, let's all talk about. I mentor aspiring comedians all the time, but it's always different with aspiring Indigenous comedians. And I would say to a two-spirited comedian as well, it's just like Zebediah said, we are performing in dive bars, we're performing in comedy clubs. It's quite rare to perform for our communities until our name is known. But working out in gyms, like what I'm at right now is an open mic. And it's not like I'm the only Indigenous person here, as far as I know. I didn't do a roll call, but it's what I tell them is they might not have taken grade 9 history. They probably don't even know we exist. It's going to be a little bit of a hand holding.
Hmm.
You might get offended at their ignorance, but you could teach them something. And that's what I do on stage. Like, I know when I'm performing for my communities, I don't have to do so much explaining of my jokes. But when I'm doing other shows, when I'm doing Indigenous material, I have to handhold, if you will, in a very condescending, cocky way, but funny. I would just make sure to also be safe, because in the comedy scene, specifically, everybody here had like all comedy should be sponsored by BetterHelp. Like every single person in the comedy scene has a chip on their shoulder, or they had mental illness, or they're going through things. So the first thing is just like make sure that you are there for yourself and your peers are not your friends per se. Because I had that problem when I first started in comedy that I thought my peers were my friends and I was getting a lot of pushback. Like I was not native enough to talk about the native stuff. I was not black enough to talk about the black stuff. I'm not educated enough to talk about politics. And that was coming from my peers. And I felt very shunned. And then I felt very isolated out of the community. And then it took years to realize, no, I'm here for myself in the sense of I want to make the audiences laugh. I'm here for the audience. I'm not here to try to impress my peers. So if anything, I hope they can take that, be there for your art form, love your art form, be obsessed with your art form. But people are individuals and they have their own gripes, but never take that as a reflection of you. Because I could have just quit comedy because I didn't get the love and admiration of my peers like they give it to their friends, because I felt unwanted. And there's a saying that they're like, don't stay in a room you're unwanted in. And I'm like, in comedy, that's it doesn't work that way because the audience might want us,
Yeah.
like the back of the room, we're not supposed to play for them, play for the audience.
Oh, that's pretty great advice. Ace, you need to jump in here.
I completely agree with my lovely friend. I want to add on to that and saying invest in yourself. Invest in yourself in not only supporting yourself and like whenever you're practicing, practice for yourself as well as, practicing for others because, you got to be able to laugh at your own jokes. You have to be able to see your own self in a video and kindly, and that's the hard part is practicing to be kind to yourself because it is a practice. As you learn, as you grow, you will learn all these things about yourself as an artist and adapt to different environments, but you have to stay true to who you are. And also a lot of code switching along the way, but investing in yourself is key in having that solid foundation as a performer because no one else is going to shake that foundation if you are solid in yourself. Like the whole world could be against you. Like you could be in a completely different like town in like a dive bar where like, it might be a little scary, but you are solid in your foundation and who you are and in your craft that you are about to rock that little world apart and like make a name for yourself in that town. Like, it's definitely easier said than done. And practice makes perfect. Keep practicing, invest in a practice, invest in a class maybe or something. Always learn from others as well is very important. And knowing that you are constantly learning, even whenever you're the master, you are constantly learning.
That's right. That's right. And there's something to be said too around networking, right? Like there's a way now that folks have access to social media and the internet. Like, when I was younger, starting out there, we didn't even have iPhones back in the day when I was back out rock and rolling, so the networking was a lot more challenging because I didn't know other native folk, though I now know a lot of the other Two-Spirit musicians. I don't know all of them, though I know many of them. And every single one of them that I have met has always been so gracious and kind and sharing information or say like, hey, this gig came up, I can't do it, could you do it? And so I just want to say also like network with your people. If you want to be a comedian, reach out to other Two-Spirit comedians. If you want to do drag, if you want to do circus, if you want music, like there are those of us that are out there. We're accessible. You can reach us. And I know most Two-Spirit and Indigenous people, we want to help our community do whatever we can for them to have their dreams come true. Though I am very concerned in general around support and what support looks like. And so I want to know from you all specifically, how can the Two-Spirit community, the Two-Spirit Indigiqueer community, and maybe the broader LGBTQIA plus community really support you in your work as an entertainer? What would that support look like? And I'm going to ask Zebediah or Leviathan to jump in here to say, like, what would support look like for you all as you are continuing to grow in your career, specifically from our community?
I'll go ahead, Ziv. You know, for me, support from our community, just like you said, it takes a network of people to, you have to have your networking because without that, if I was to just say, hey, I want to go do drag today and no one knows me, but I'm going to go out and give a number that's like really political in an indigenous way, like, tribal politics or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And no one knows me and no one knows I'm going to be there, there's no support. So you do have to have, that is key to have your networking. You got to know all these other queens, or, you got to know, like you said, the other comedians, but if I didn't have that, there's no way I would be out here doing this. Because when I get booked in shows, I'm not there because I'm Resurrection Chanel, the Indian queen. It's not that. They're not bringing me out there to do it for that reason. They think what I do is good. But then there's also shows, like you said, the dive bars. If we go out there and do a show there, I've done shows in the South where I'm the only that I know of, the only queen that's had a show in Sulphur, Oklahoma, on Main Street. That's in the heart of Chickasaw Nation. So, but it took doing all that networking. It took having your community support to produce a show like that. But for like mainstream, like the whole thing in one, that's a hard question to answer. Because how do we reach everyone?
Yeah.
There's that, and I'm not real good with, technic, all these phones and things like that. I'm not real good with it. But I feel like I do enough to help, support, someone that's asking me questions anytime. If they're asking me, how can I get started? How can I do this and that? I try. But that's on the drag side. It's a little different, because we're talking about, they're asking questions about makeup. They're asking questions about what should I wear? What should I do? And I've got a friend right now, she's really thinking about doing drag. She wants to, but I said, you've got to find your own art. I mean, how do you want to produce yourself? So there's that question. There's how can we talk to these people and get them into knowing, we're out here, and that we still need support. It's a hard question to answer because how do we find support? How are we going to navigate it? Because every Indigenous person isn't on social media. Every Indigenous person is not out there. Indigenous queer, person, might want to live off the grid. We don't know. How do we connect to them? We don't have just an all native Facebook, if we did, it would be so much easier for us. But yeah, I mean, that is a hard question to answer about reaching people because I used to work Chickasaw Nation in a community where being queer isn't really okay. This community, how do I reach those people? They're out there, working, in a tribe that's not really open to the queer community, but they're sitting there doing it. And then now they see me out here doing it. Inspiration, I guess, would help you to reach the vast amount of queer people out there. Yeah, I guess I'm done with this one.
Well, I'm gonna pass it over to Zebediah to really just ask that same question. Like, what kind of support do you think is needed from the Two-Spirit, Indigiqueer, and maybe the larger LGBTQIA+ community?
Yeah, I recently was chatting with Aoka, dear Aoka. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. That's how I said her name. We heard someone call her Aoka, and we joke about it all the time. Aoka, yeah, dear. Just recently, and we were kind of talking about how there's just, at least in our local community, I guess I can't speak for the Two Spirit abroad community, but just here locally, we were kind of chatting about how we just aren't really in touch outside of these big events when we see each other, or maybe in passing at certain things. And so she was just saying that she has really been trying to connect people in the community to try to network amongst each other. Not even certain specific events or anything like that, but just the community aspect of the Two Spirit community. She was like, we kind of all know of each other, but we don't really talk to each other. We never conversate. We don't really know how people are really doing in their lives outside of their gigs or their work or whatever. And so she said, before we do anything else, I just am trying to network and get everybody to know that, whatever you bring to the table or the community, you're valuable, whether it's entertainment, something culture, whatever, as a person, and getting a conversation going to get to know each other on a personal level. And I was 100% in agreement with her. We were kind of in the same train of thought, and we just happened to collide and have that conversation. And I think that that's a huge thing of just getting to know other people a little bit more. Maybe, I mean, we don't got to sit down and have a deep, serious conversation every single time, but just getting to know some people outside of gigs. Because everybody seems so lovely. I see them all the time at different events, but then like I don't really know them personally. And so I think whatever getting that conversation started looks like, I don't know. I think that that will help, and that will lead to feeling a little more comfortable supporting people as far as coming to our shows or coming to our gigs or maybe sharing a post. Because sometimes I think people see you and they think you're either a great dancer, singer, comedian, whatever, and they'll acknowledge your talent, but they don't really know you, so they don't feel comfortable sharing your content online or saying, "Look at this guy," and so they just don't. And so then you're cut off from this exposure that could be. But then once they get to know you and they kind of like you on a personal level, a friendship or whatever, then they feel a little more comfortable saying, "Hey, check out my friend. He's funny, whatever." And so I think getting to know each other. Personally, a little bit more will lead to some comfort and help us get over that awkwardness or that fear of really showing public support of each other. And then maybe uh, just coming to shows. I don't know. There's just this weirdness where like we won't like to quote a Facebook meme. Your own people they won't share your post, but they'll wish Janet Jackson happy birthday. Like, and there's so much of that. And it's like if we would just get over that and just start supporting each other, knowing that we're in the community, knowing that oh, that's another Native entertainer. No, that's another queer entertainer. That alone, and they're good. I actually respect what they're doing. They're a beautiful singer. They're really a good comedian. I'm gonna share it because it's good, and I want somebody else to see this as well. I once had someone say, "Oh my God, you're so funny! I can't believe you're not more famous." This person had never shared a post, had never come to a show. They just watched me online and that was it, but never show any kind of support. And so I always tell people, well, there are so many little things that you can do. But as far as really contributing to this conversation, I think us just really this kind of conversation is why I'm happy to be here, because this is the exact kind of conversation I'm talking about. I think getting to know each other will help us within the community, that kind of support. To long-winded answer your question there.
Well, I appreciate that. Recently, my friend Autumn, who is this badass Indigenous woman, shared with me this phrase called radical lateral support. And I just, when Autumn shared that with me, I was like, what is that? I've never heard that phrase before. And she explained it to me a little bit more, and I was like, that is what we need. We need more of exactly what you were saying, Zebediah. Like, when we come across each other's posts, right? We're all fighting these algorithms. If we're talking about like social media, we are fighting an algorithm, right? And so like liking a post, forwarding a post, sharing it to your story will help us have more visibility, will bring our content to more audiences, which will help us get more bookings. And again, I always think that like, yeah, it's really nice and fun to get a gig and to get a booking, though sometimes I feel like the visibility that I and other Two-Spirit indigenous performers have is as important as me getting a gig, because it's like somebody will know that maybe I can do that one day, or they can see themselves in a way that many of us that are like my age and older never saw Two-Spirit people as comedians, as dancers, really even as drag artists, right? Or even as teachers, so that we have an opportunity as a community to really have this radical lateral support with each other and sharing our content, asking questions, and also like, bringing us to your tribal nations and bringing us to your native community centers, like looking out for each other. That is something that I really try to do on my end, is like looking out for the folks that are in this world and in this work. Though it takes a lot of kind of getting out of our own way and really recognizing that comparison is the thief of joy. So we're not in competition with each other, and like to not compare ourselves with each other. And also, I'm gonna say this too, like to also not be afraid to call someone out when they don't support you, to be like, like, okay, like, I did this for you, you ain't did that for me, or, you have these things. And sometimes it's like, sometimes I've noticed like, oh, my name is interestingly missing from the list of things, like, like I can't, did y'all forget about the road that I paid for your asses to walk down once upon a time? Because sometimes folks forget, like those of us that are like on the close to the elder age, like we did a lot of stuff back in the day that was pretty badass and radical, that created the space. When I think of like Landa and the work that Landa did in the drag world to like open that door up for so many other drag artists, or musicians like myself who were doing that work, that maybe helped open that door. And I think of Charlie Ballard, the comedian, who was doing Two-Spirit comedy years ago, that kind of opened that door for folks. Like we're still out there, we're still doing the work, and don't forget about us, young ones. We're still out there rocking and rolling and doing the thing. So part of that is like, really thinking about like your own self-doubt, like, right, as entertainers there, I know I get bogged down in my own inner critic. It can be so loud sometimes, deafening to me sometimes. And I want to know from y'all, what do you do? How do you overcome that self-doubt, if you have it? Anyone want to jump in there?
Unbridled confidence. Unbridled confidence. So just going back on what you said, like, one, yes, there's imposter syndrome, but having like our community back us gives us strength. And in Canada here, we have like 13 Two-Spirited communities, but some of them are fighting with each other because there's some pretendians, there's some lateral violence, and whatever have you. And we're already fighting within ourselves with the crabs in the bucket. And we're also fighting to be recognized because we're living in two worlds. So when we're with non-Indigenous folks, like working alongside them or working for them, and just battling to exist nowadays, thanks Trump. But like, we're just trying to be uh, authentic to ourselves, and making sure that we're doing it in a good way, and making sure that, yes, we do pay homage to the ones who came before us. Thank you for name dropping that comedian there. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. But it's hard. It's hard as a Two-Spirited individual in the entertainment industry, when every single day we're getting messages of like, you're mentally ill, or you don't exist, or pick one. And like, someone yesterday called me a boy girl, and I'm like, oh, thank you, that's so validating. And that's not what they wanted. They wanted me to be mad. But as somebody who is quite binary, who has both masculine and feminine spirits, I was like, hey, thank you, I'll take it. Yeah, you see both, that's good. This is my job. And that I combat the hate with comedy. And just like Levison does, I thank you so much for being a political drag artist, because I'm a political comedian. And Levison, when you're up there and you're just giving it your all, I feel the same when I'm on stage, because that confidence of, I know what I'm doing is meaningful to me and I want to share it with the world. And that is what we have to do. So having confidence in yourself can also uh, inspire others to be confident with themselves. And hopefully that answers the question. Sorry.
Unbridled confidence. I appreciate that. Anyone else want to jump in on that? How do you build or how do you deal with your self-confidence in those moments of the inner critic getting a little too chatty sometimes?
I'll step in. Um, it just depends on how loud that inner critic goes. I have to have a plan B and C, you know. I like to start off with like looking at where I came from, looking back at the videos. This is why I say take videos of your performances, of your practices, because I'll look back at stuff I was doing in my early 20s. And I was just like, dang, oh my gosh, what? You did that? Oh, you're crazy. You're crazy. Because when I perform, I just let the spirit of performance take over me. It's like a possession. It's like we all figure out what I'm going to do at that exact moment. I don't have choreography. I kind of have moves and a set of moves that I'll kind of do, but it will depend on the environment, will always change, especially as a drag artist. We tend to feed off of the energy of the crowd, and it all depends on the crowd. You're at the mercy of them. So you really have to adjust on a dime and being able to um not take that personally. That is a hard thing for me to do. But it just shake it off and keep going and work through that, because that is the magic of creation. That is the magic of art, is being able to push through that and come out a different artist. Because once you put your art out there, it's at the mercy of the world. Like you can't like tell it to go one way or the other. Like you could have a certain interpretation for what it should have been, but the world could see it differently. And like just pretend like being that, like that critic is just a grumpy little kid at whatever age it is. Maybe it's a toddler, maybe it's a preteen, and being like, hey, there's something else going on here and I need you to stop. Let's talk it out. And maybe if we need to go run to get our just blood going and get our thoughts out, then let's go do that. Let's just switch it up. Let's do something else. Like having to have that kindness, that in order to nurture that creativity, that creative heart and mind in yourself. Because I think about a lot about when I was a kid and how I would constantly play pretend as Ace, and who is Ace and who is this person that I was creating and becoming ultimately down the line. And I think about how that kid created and how that kid's dreams got a little worn for wear, not supported, and how I, as adult Ace, would support that kid through that creativity, and how I would talk to them, be like, hey, you know, that show didn't go the way we wanted to, champ, but what did we learn? And what could we do better? Let's not focus on it like so for a long time. Let's not dwell on it. Let's just take that lesson for what it is, because it's always a lesson. Every time you get on stage, you're learning another lesson about who you are, your endurance and your grit and your creativity. That's what it is. And, you know, that's all it is just you got to keep growing. And that's how I sort of help myself. And it hasn't been easy. It's taken a lot of time, therapy, and just self-reflection. But I believe anyone can do it.
Yeah, appreciate the plug for mental health, and not just because I'm a psychotherapist in my professional life as well, though. Just to say that, like, you know, I heard you say like this reminder that that inner critic is just a part of us, and if we can learn to sort of separate that and recognize this is a part of my experience in the world and not the totality of my existence as a performer or as a person, it really creates that space to really recognize like it is a lesson here and I can learn from this, and I can get better if I want to, or I can choose I don't want to do this anymore too. Like that's also valid. I mean, I've had my own periods in my life as a performer. I'm like, I'm good. I'm gonna take a break. You know, I took about I think 12 years off of performing when I got my PhD. I was like, I'm just gonna go do something else. And coming back into that world after so many years being out of it was kind of very eye-opening for me, because suddenly people were less interested in the talent that I had and more interested with how many Instagram followers do you have? And I was like, what the bleep does that matter? Like, can I play guitar? Can I sing? Is that not important to y'all anymore? So it's just recognizing that, like, yeah, there's these parts of us that are going to judge, and then this other part that wants to share and wants to create and wants to just express love. For the folks that are with us live tonight, for our community members that are here, if you have any questions for our lovely panelists here tonight, feel free to drop those into the chat field. And in just a few moments' time, I'm going to get to those community questions if there are any. And once again, thank you all so much for being here as part of this evening and as part of the wonderful Bates 14th Annual Two-Spirit Powwow Week. Zebediah, Leviathan, and really for all of you, I wanna know, what are some of the biggest challenges that you think Two-Spirit people, and I'm sorry, Two-Spirit entertainers in particular, are facing right now? Either one of you can go. I know y'all be.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt if you were going to go for it, but I'll go for it. I think in just a surface level, I think depending on the gig, you got just speaking from a comedian. I can't speak for every artist's experience, but in comedy for sure, you got to read the room. It sucks. I'm not saying like completely like. Don't ever talk about being Two-Spirit if you're like, for sure you can acknowledge it, you can joke about it, but like if you know that there's like kind of like a churchy crowd there, like don't open up with like the vulgarity like and the profanity out the wazoo. Like read the room, baby. Like you're gonna lose them right away. Like just read the room. It's okay, because sometimes there's just some people that just like are not trying to hear it, they're not trying to see it. And I'm not saying like censor yourself, but give a version of yourself that they can handle, because you're trying to win them over, but I don't want to offend. And so something that is still facing Two-Spirit comedians, sometimes we get booked, or myself, I get booked at Native events. And I don't know what it's like nationwide, but here in Oklahoma, a lot of Native folks are very spiritual, either in a ceremonial way or in a religious Sunday school kind of way. We have a lot of church natives, which is great. That's fine if that's your route. But then I can do a Native event that's mostly the churchy natives. And it's like my act is talking about my sexuality and dating and this and that. And so, and I've been in rooms where like you can just feel the air go out immediately. I didn't even say nothing vulgar. I just mentioned that I'm with a man, and then you can feel them tighten up. And so it's just like, oh man, this is comedy. Like I didn't come to your church to say this. Like you came here and I'm just trying to talk about my experience and now you're mad. And so that's kind of like a little thing that we're facing. It's just sometimes you run into those audiences where like, even if you bring it up in a classy way, a nice way, you still can lose them. But if you are smart with your jokes and like I was saying, don't just ham it up and make it super vulgar and really lose them. If you can win them over and let them see the humanity in you and get past your sexuality, your label, whatever, and then they see you like, oh yeah, I do that too. Hey, this guy's cool after all. And it seems like simple to us because we're normal human beings, but there are some people who just like are so years in the past about queer people, and so they really only see us as queer, the label. And so sometimes if you're smart with your comedy, you can win them over and get them to see you as a person, which should be a given, but sadly it's not. So that's just a simple thing that we're still facing. It's just sometimes you run into the opposite end, very far left, I guess you could say, or far right kind of audience. And but it's not super like pressing. Like I said, just a small thing that we're facing.
I appreciate that. Anyone else want to jump in around some of the biggest challenges facing Two-Spirit performers? Leviathan, you were unmuted a moment ago. Did you want to share something?
My biggest challenge is probably actually myself.
Oh, okay.
Because growing up in the way I did, we had to look a certain way. We always did. I grew up in church,
Mm.
My parents are ministers, my grandparents were ministers, but also speaking our language, they got to get to that crowd. And so I've been at chocolate church before where if you spoke English, you got kicked out. And so, but we all had to look a certain way. We all had to be this certain way, this certain person then. And so I still like that's some trauma for me. That is very traumatic for me. But when I get ready to go and I finally am like, okay, this is it. This is what I'm gonna do tonight. This is how I'm gonna look. My makeup looks great. It took a lot to get there.
Mm.
So my biggest challenge is myself, honestly.
Wow, I appreciate that. I mean, when you said that, I was like, ooh, like, like that just took us to church, I think, when you said that, because I think so many of us resonated about just getting in our own way.
Yeah,
And
we have to feel it though. If we're gonna produce something that is so good that they feel it too, then we're doing it.
that's right. Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful in that way. But how many artists do it though? A lot do, but no one notices sometimes.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you for that. I want you all to share. I want to hear from all of you on this next question, if you would. Can you share with us a time or story about an amazing performance that you had? Whether it was the audience loved it or you just like stepped off that stage and you were like, nailed it. Have you ever had those moments? I know for me, like when I was at the Two Spirit Gathering in Oklahoma, I performed an original song and I hit that last note and I was like, yes, I did. I just had that moment where I was like, yes, I did that. And honestly, you know what? I did not even know I was going to hit that note until that moment because I never practiced that way before. But just something, I felt something in that room and I just went for it. And now every time I sing that song, I always hit that really high note at the end. So um, that was a moment that sticks in my memory of like, gosh, it felt so good to be with other Two Spirit people. And the song that I shared was really written for our community. That was a song that's about Two Spirit love. So that for me was like a memory that comes to mind about a moment that just felt so good. Anyone else want to share a performance where they just felt great? Janelle.
I will. I got to perform for banquet with Keepers of the Circle, which is a pre-employment program for Indigenous women in Northern Ontario in Canada. And I was part of their program like 10 years ago. But they hired me because they knew who I was. And I was doing the Christmas party banquet. And I get up there, and again, just like so that I was saying, that you got to read the room. They were eating up everything I was putting down. It was bam, bam, bam. They were big auntie laughs. Just everybody was just, buckled over. And then after I said, "Do you know what grinds my stage?" That I'm all out of time. They all went, "Oh," and then they all stood up and they gave me a standing ovation. And my heart melted. It was my first standing ovation I ever got in my life. And I was taken aback, but I felt seen. I felt seen. And, when I have those good shows, not when I have bad shows, but when I have good shows, people will come up to me and they'll be like, other Indigenous folks, they'll be like, "I'm too spirited. I had no way to voice how I felt or even how to talk about it, but you really inspired me to just like be my authentic self." Like they say it in fewer words than that, but they see me and they feel seen, and I'm like they make me feel seen, and so that really inspired me to keep going, because as comedians we have a lot more down days than up days when we're starting out, and that was something that's always going to sit with me. And I'm very happy for Keepers of the Circle. Thank you.
Well, may you have many more standing ovations in your future, Janelle. Yeah, many blessings to you. Ace, you want to jump in here?
I would say for me, my favorite performance was at the last year's Two Spirit Fest in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the Wampa Event Center. Oh my gosh, if you've ever been to Tulsa and you've been to Wampa, oh my God, it's like the dream venue. And it was a dream that I was manifesting for years. Ever since that I knew about the venue, I was like, I'm going to be here one day and it's going to be great. But what I didn't know is that I was about to be in that room surrounded by a bunch of people that I love and my chosen family, my chosen fathers, aunties, sisters, brothers. It was just like being surrounded in a room full of love and feeling that also that love and acceptance. And it was just electric. And I did I want to say it was about 9-minute performance. Like it was back to back songs mixes that I had. And I just remember just being like so tired, but having so much fun. And also seeing like the smile on my sister's face and just the eyes of enchantment. It was just like, okay, this is amazing. Like this is the first time she has ever seen me perform. And like it was just great hearing her in the recording being like, it's Soul, which is another name that I go by. And I'm like, oh, it just warms my heart. And now like literally just seeing the effects of just inspiring the next generation and also current family members, chosen family members. It was just exhilarating, exhausting, but wouldn't change it for the world. It felt so great. Just it was great. I loved it.
Just a really quick shout out to the Tulsa Two Spirit Fest. They are doing amazing things. I had the pleasure to be a part of one of their, I think it was their first one that they did a couple of years ago. Thank you. Shout out to Marks Cassidy for getting me out there and inviting me to be a part of that. They've got some great things. I think they're planning the next one soon. So I look forward to that when that happening. Zebediah Leviathan, any y'all want to share a great performance that you had?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So like when my inner critic comes in, like there's two ways of that I like really deal with it, and it really depends on like where my headspace is, I guess. So a lot of times, like I'm like very socially anxious, so like I automatically assume that like no matter what, if I'm meeting someone or talking to someone, like instantly I just think that they don't like me and find me annoying and want me to go away. And like it's the same thing like with an audience. Like I get this critic of like, they don't think you're funny. They don't want you to do good. They think you're gonna suck. They want you to suck so they can just like smirk it. And so like I have to like turn it around and be like, no, they want you to do good. They think of them as your friends. They're coming in and cheering for you, even if you don't know anybody in the room. And I totally switched my mind over to thinking like, oh, these people love me. It's gonna be a great time. But then also if I'm in a totally different headspace. And then another thing that works for me, like I'll freak out if like friends or family come to see me and I think, oh God, or if someone says, oh, I'm coming to see you. It like puts this pressure on me, like, oh, now I have to do great. They're coming to see me. So it's something that inspires me in that headspace as I tell myself to get like riled up. I'm like, they don't think you're funny. They don't think you're gonna get a single laugh tonight. So you better get up there and prove them wrong. Show them you got talent. They don't think you got the goods. So you gotta get up there and kill it now. And so it's like, depending on where my headspace is, I tell myself that the audience either loves me and they're my friends, or they hate me and they think I'm not gonna be good. And they both motivate me depending on where my headspace is at. And this particular day, I was there was someone that I have worked with on other comedy shows, but they always booked me as like the little host, the whatever the smallest role they could give me just to like kind of acknowledge me, but also try to be a little shady by placing me there. They would. And someone else booked both of us on a show and they put them as the opener and me as the closer. And I just like, I thought, oh yeah, now it's my chance. I'm gonna prove to this person that I'm funny, and you put me in those disrespectful roles all these times. And so I was just jazzed up that this is my opportunity to prove them like, oh, I'll show you, to put me as this little tool. I'll censor myself. But and so I went up and I mean, I was so riled up just convinced that I had to kill it for this person. That I didn't even film this day. Normally, I film every gig just to have to go back and reflect on myself, the tips to work on, or to find a little clip for social media. But I kick myself all the time for not recording this because it was truly probably the best crowd. I don't know what it was. There was a magic in the air. They showed up to have a good time, and they, from joke one, nothing bombed, nothing fell flat. It was a big laugh every time. And I totally am giving this to the crowd. Thank God they were a good time and they were there. And just in the palm of my hand, a lot of the material was new and they were eating it up, having a good time, hooting and hollering, elbowing their neighbor, bending over. It was just like a movie magic moment of just like, this is what I'm supposed to do. This crowd just affirmed it. And I also taught that person, don't you ever disrespect me and put me in some shady role again. And it was just a great time. And I kick myself all the time that there's no footage of it out there at all, but it lives warmly in my heart, I suppose, as my favorite moment.
Well, may there be many more of those moments in your future, Zebediah, and I have no doubt that they will capture that at some point because you are certainly on the rise and your star is shining bright. So we're going to go to Leviathan and then we're going to wrap things up, folks. So Leviathan, if you'll share with us, maybe just make it a little brief about one performance that was really great for you, and then we're going to wrap things up.
Okay, so thank you, Roger.
So
But my favorite performance was really at the Two Spirit Gathering here in Oklahoma. Because the thing was, I worked really hard for just that one performance. I built everything that I wore that time. To cutting out hands, everybody saw me cutting out little hands at night.
yeah,
But that's the MMIW hands.
that's right.
Okay, just for cutting those out. Building the dress the week before, and this is 3 reveals in this dress. That was my favoriteest time because, I had elders coming up to me and telling me that's the best thing they've ever seen, crying. If you really want someone to touch my heart, it's going to be an elder, always. If they have something to say to me, yeah. So that really did it for me. That was my favorite time performing on stage anywhere. No matter the outcome, I still had the best time.
Yeah.
Just being able to connect with all of our Two Spirit people, all the babies that came out too, we are inspiration to them.
That's right.
And that's really what gets me going is inspiration for people, letting them know they can still be here and letting our elders know that we can take on what they did too.
That's right. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And if I don't know if that performance is anywhere online, that if anyone ever gets a chance to see it, it was magnificent, Leviathan. I hope you will forever remain proud of yourself for what you brought that moment. You had everybody just at the edge of their seat. Absolutely stunning. I want to thank every single one of our panelists for being here tonight. Janelle, Zebediah, Leviathan, Ace, y'all are inspirational to me. I am so thankful to know that you are out there in the world doing this work, for the visibility that you bring to Two-Spirit, Indigiqueer, Native American, First Nations people. I see you and I thank you. And I so appreciate you saying yes to my invitation to being here tonight. And folks that are watching live or that are going to watch this at a later date, check these people out, look them up. They're on the YouTube, they're on the Facebook, they're on the Instagram. Any of you on the Tickety Talk? I know Janelle's on Tickety Talk now that it's still available. Though they're out there, book them, reach out to them, follow them, share their posts, like their posts. Tell your friends about them. And for those that are here, we look forward to seeing you the rest of this week at all the other Bates events for the powwow this week. And we look forward to seeing you on Saturday at the main event at Fort Mason Center. My name is Dr. Roger Kuhn. It is an honor to be your moderator again this year. Thank you all so much. Thank you to our hosts, to Cody and Amelia, and everybody at Bates, the board, the staff. Thank you all so much. Have a lovely night. Mado, Mado, Mado. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Be well, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Mado.
I don't know who's going to